Hello and welcome everyone to episode 159 of One Piece at a Time, the One Piece read-through podcast where we read and discuss 5 chapters of the One Piece manga each and every week. I'm your host, Derrick Bittner, and I'm joined by wonderful co-host and freelance letterer at Shonen Jump, Brandon Bovia. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm, of course, Brandon Bovia, letterer. You know, my canned introduction, or I say like, oh, I letter Dragon Ball Super into Kaiju number 8. For various reasons, I kind of don't work on either right now.
Really?
I wonder if I should take those out. Yeah.
I mean, I knew Dragon Ball has been on a hiatus, but it just got that new chapter, and now I don't.
Yeah, I did not work on that new chapter, so I feel like I should stop saying I worked on past tense.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
mostly
you did good.
Mostly
work.
Time. Yeah. You know, I as some folks might know, I was dying last year, so. But I still letter manga as my main gig. So I'll just try to remember to say I'm a freelance letterer of Beyblade X and My Dress Up Darling. Yeah, you can find me there.
Oh, there you go. I mean, there's a popular.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I still work. I work on a lot of well-known stuff still, just not those two.
Yeah, just not that shonen stuff. At least not those particular shonen stuff, because Beyblade's shonen.
Yeah, it feels like it was just one of those like, if I ever need to, if anyone ever asks me what I work on, I just say those two, and usually be like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. So now I'm like, oh yeah, I literally a bunch of niche stuff.
Hey, it happens. It's no big deal, and it's still, you got to think about your true gig, podcast host.
Exactly.
But man, One Piece.
This is good.
Yeah, I welcome to the end of Act 1, it feels like, because we just got a breakdown of kind of at least a snippet of the history of Dressrosa, at least what led it to this point, and there's some crazy revelations in here, and not a lot of action, despite having a few scenes of Rebecca in the ring. This is going to be a long one, so I don't know if we want to take too much time for preface or just get right to it. But man, I am so just drawn into this.
Yeah, no, it's really, again, we don't need to dwell too much on it before we get on into things, but like, it is dense. This arc is dense and full of twists. Like I feel like there's stuff in here that is a lot of like, okay, yeah, we learn revelations that I feel like there's been enough buildup that we kind of go like, okay, yeah, that kind of tracks with where you think. And then there's some really wild out of left field stuff, which is just like, I feel like where Dressrosa really just sings.
I feel like every set we've had, there's something out of left field of like, what?
Yep. If you're counting, again, can't wait for next week. if you know what's coming, I can't wait for next week.
Oh boy. Well, let's get to it with chapter 726, The Riku Family, and a color spread to start us off as just a classic one. All the straw hats, all what they looked like as a kid. I think the most significant thing about all of it is actually Brook, because I think Brook was only shown as a kid during an SBS.
Yeah. I don't think we've ever seen him as a child, like in the manga proper. What I like about this spread the most, honestly, is just like you kind of forget how much Frankie and Brook tower over the rest of the crew.
You really do after a certain point. They are big lads, and honestly, you kind of forget just how tall Robin is. I mean, it might be the heels, but she is she's quite tall.
Yeah, I mean, she's the basically the third tallest of the crew, against a giant skeleton and a giant robot man. So not doing too bad.
No, not at all. And hey, we even get Frankie in his classic hairstyle, which I'm sorry, that's his best hairstyle. Oh
yeah, you're right.
That's the more Frankie looks like Ace Ventura, the better he looks.
You're not wrong. Yeah. Oh my God. There are some really good Frankie hairstyles though.
I mean, like I said, the one this one is actually grown on me, but I don't know how I'll feel once the beard is gone.
Yeah, I do think you're right though. The kind of pre-time skip. Not, I was about to call it a pompadour. It's not really that, but it's kind of slicked over. It is still kind of my favorite look for him, I think. Even if there are a lot of other ones I like.
Fair. But into the chapter itself, and last time we found out, all the fighters that have lost have been getting dumped into some sort of holding cell with a bunch of broken down toys and whatever else, and more of them just keep falling down here as they get treated, in quotes, because
yes,
yeah, it's just garbage and toys and fighters down here. So what the heck's down here? And then we get this interesting line from Ricky, who we've been curious about for a while. Like, what's his deal? It's one of those. I kept having this thing. It was like, one of these fighters is this legendary fighter that everybody forgot, but I keep being wrong because that is not Ricky. Thanks to a tank that Dressrosa military commander that we had a bit of a conflict with, that was actually helping out. I forget his name, but the other king. He's like, wait, is that you, King Riku? And I'm like, wait, no, that's not possible. He's went mad.
Right, yeah. And then he just, he takes off the helmet. He's just kind of like, well, there's not much reason to hide it anymore. So, yeah. That first interesting line from him, where he says, he will not be called a king any longer, Commander Tank. I am nothing but an old man, a feeble, sinful old geezer who cannot even help his granddaughter. And there we have it, the former king of Dressrosa, Riku Doldo III. And he's jacked.
Yeah, I love how he says feeble and he's like a ripped grandpa. It's like, good God.
Right, yeah. I mean, obviously, I feel like it's interesting that we get this reveal here because we've learned, like, so much kind of I say posthumously. He's alive, but, from other folks of, like, was he a good guy? Was he a bad guy? What happened? But now here he is. The kind of vibe I get right off the bat is very kind of, like, regretful.
Yes. Yeah, this is a man full of regrets. And if he's like not even willing to call himself king anymore and stuff to that effect, he's definitely full of regrets. But we get this other interesting line from him, and we do get answers for this later on, but it's still like one of those intriguing things as we see it. It's like, oh, you've been watching over Viola for me. I would never doubt an honorable man like you. It must have been a painful decision, which is, again, very interesting that he teamed up with the King of Prudence for the actual fight. So it's like, huh. It's like,
yeah,
honorable man working with this other kingdom, but obviously I think it's his way of sort of trying to maybe topple Doflamingo or something like that as we kind of get more of this. It's interesting inner turmoil, personal politics. What is everybody trying to do to sort of their own way of resisting?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting in that fact where we kind of got all of the, like, kind of the block B and C guys, where it's like kind of way after their block has ended, we are now kind of learning their own motivations. And a lot of it, like, I feel like is really interesting kind of like political dynamics between, you learn a little bit about like Dressrosa and its relationship to, its like surrounding countries, where like Elisabello comes up and he's just kind of like, like, I can't count how many times you helped pull my kingdom out of disaster. And like, he's happy to see him. So yeah, again, it's just like,
he's full on hugging him.
Right, yeah, like how all of these people see King Riku and kind of, as we'll kind of get into, kind of the differences is kind of one of the most interesting aspects going on here.
Yeah, and basically Doflamingo taking over the country has completely destabilized the area to there's been nonstop war ever since he took over. And he's like, I'm sick of it. I hate all this. But, Tank calls him out. I was like, hey, you might be sick of it, but for every tear shed, someone else is laughing. There are some who foment warfare between nations and reap massive profits. And of course, that's Joker. That's Doflamingo. That's why he's doing all this. It's like, all of them are like, yeah, our kingdoms are all still stuck in war because of him. In fact, the king of Kano requested the Haposui forces to try to get this in order to stop this. And it gives you a much grander sense of scale than anything we've gotten at this point, other than just like, it just felt like the flame fruit was another weapon in all these wars, but we see why the wars are happening.
Right. And it's such a crucial, and again, it's like, as far as we're kind of concerned, like, this is all like background flavor stuff, but it's so interesting that, again, that the flame fruit would be kind of this big draw to all of these surrounding countries who are kind of stuck in endless wars because of Doflamingo. It's just, again, he's manipulating everybody, like everybody's playing into the palm of his hands. And speaking of sort of like the kind of how folks view differently on King Riku, it's like you have what's his face here, the Eggman looking dude, Dagama, who is just kind of like, like, we owe Dressrosa a great debt, but the name Riku is sullied. And then Lepanto kind of calls him out. He's just like, you don't know the full story, basically. If you don't know the tragedy, you have no right to comment on what happened. So,
and that's enough for like the king's like, no, just let it go. It's no worries about it. And all of a sudden, a bunch of these gladiators reveal that they were former soldiers for the army, and they start kneeling before him along with all the toys. Like, he still commands respect.
Yeah.
And people even comment, it was like, I thought everybody hated King Riku, and we saw that with Rebecca, all the jeering against her. Obviously, there's more to the story, and obviously it was never as clear-cut as, yes, Doflamingo, that guy's on the up and up and totally took over.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like, did you really believe
yeah.
Doflamingo? Yeah.
But it's interesting to see that there is still loyalty there in that whole aspect. But the other interesting thing is that we got our Fishman, I forget his name, but our Hack, that's right. Fishman fighter talking into a little transponder snail to somebody in secret, saying, with a hidden structure this size, there must be more secrets underground. And they say, keep searching. So he's working for someone.
Yeah.
And the only someone I can think of who could that could be is Jinbei. For what reason, I have no idea. However, I do have a theory that relates to the end of these set of chapters, if I can remember to bring that back up again.
Yeah. We'll see. I think we might have an answer to this next week. I'm not 100% sure about that, but
okay.
We might. Yeah.
Interesting. But while that's after that happens, all of a sudden this weird goo comes down and lands on the elder of the two brothers from the Hapusi army.
I think it's Boo.
Boo, yes. I think you're right.
So I think
Boo.
I forget which. They're Boo and Sai. I forget which is which. I think he's Boo.
I think he's. I don't. Either way, one of those two. Actually, no. They call for him. They call out Sai, so it is Sai.
Okay, got it.
So Sai gets yanked up, and we see the nose drip guy that was holding on to the flame fruit before it was given to Diamante, that we saw before. And it was also hitting on Baby Five. It's like, marry me and all that. Mm-hmm. We get this weird thing it's like, we're done. You can go. Thou shalt not harm humans. Thou shalt obey the family's orders. And don't you disobey. All the fighters are power types to your muscles. So now go straight through that door to the factory and trading port. And yeah, as far as Sai got turned into a symbol monkey, and he walks out.
Yeah. And
he's like, what's going on? I can't move so well. I can't disobey his orders. What just happened to me?
Yeah. Mild horror movie vibes, honestly.
Yeah. We got our answer about how
the toys get made.
Okay.
Yeah. And not only that it's like you can give them instructions, which is how, I guess that's the interesting thing. Like, they literally, we're kind of building up this revolt, this kind of revolution, but they are literally I guess by whatever presumably devil fruit power that this is, that they are forced into submission, literally.
So they really can't rise up in any great way. It's why they follow stuff. But it's interesting that you have to assume the toy soldier has been a toy long enough that he's sort of found loopholes, that he's able to do what he's done for Rebecca so far. It's another fascinating layer to it all, which. Speaking of Toy Soldier, real quick before anything else, a lot of people were mentioning a little bit ago about how they couldn't believe we didn't get the Gulliver's Travels reference with Robin when she was so down. Or one that was, to me, apparently the Toy Soldier is actually part of one-legged Toy Soldier is actually part of a children's story as well. I'm not as familiar with that one. But I did recognize Gulliver's Travels, but it was superseded by the fact that Oda used that opportunity to just... do that to Robin.
Yeah, I feel like that is sort of the more I say this as somebody who did not catch that reference and did not know it was a reference for all of these years. I feel like
really? English major, so I was like, oh yeah, I get it. There's Gulliver's Travels. It's like one of the most famous scenes ever. So
I had no. I'm so uncultured, Derrick.
All I do is read anime or read manga.
It's literally my job.
And play Beyblade.
Exactly. I have two hobbies. Oh, but. See, that's the great thing, though. Just I love that people can point that stuff out because, even, reading this manga for years and years, stuff goes over my head. So I'm always glad when things can be clarified like that. And there are things that I feel like I do kind of that lean on my, I don't know about expertise necessarily, but just wait till we get later.
Yeah. No, I'm sure when we get to Wano, it's like, oh, you're gonna.
I was gonna say my
schooling
broad knowledge of Japanese culture, which really is, I'm no expert by any means.
Oh goodness. Well, back into it, we have Luffy watching the fight on a screen that's displayed for the prisoner gladiators, and he's watching through like several sets of bars. He's like, the view sucks down here. I'm gonna go root for her in person, and it's like, huh. It's weird. I thought this was a super happy, fun place all the time, but after seeing you guys, maybe not. These guys are just like, yeah, what you saw was the word of light of the winners. Doflamingo separates everyone into the obedient winners and the rebellious losers, just like the world government itself. Which is, oh boy, yeah. Ain't that the truth? To him, the losers are nothing but trash, and if you sweep all the trash under the rug, it makes the rest of the place look nicer, which immediately reminds Luffy of, back where he grew up. And
yeah,
God, I love those parallels.
I'm glad that Oda took the time to point like I feel like that's a rare instance of Luffy being kind of introspective and kind of listening to somebody's spiel and somebody's backstory to be like, like this is just kind of how it is here, and that he's actually able to relate to it. And I think further, again, talking about that great twist that we all love of Doflamingo being a celestial dragon, it really does feel like how Doflamingo operates Dressrosa really is kind of like it's kind of a microcosm of like the world itself.
Yeah, it's a peek in how into everything's run and how they manage it.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating in that way.
Yeah.
But we get all the introspective stuff about, the warning is like there's even deeper darkness beneath us or beneath this. So, beware. Luffy comes out, and that's when Bartolomeo spots him and freaks out. He's so happy.
Which is just a great, you're just like, yeah, there's a great darkness. He's just crying out.
But then we return, before we get to see any of that union, we got the flower field where the base of operations for the army is. And we get the history of the Tontatas, because the Tontatas left their home in search of new resources. And when the big people spotted them, they were nearly driven to extinction. But one day, the king of the nearby Dressrosa said that in exchange for a bit of labor, he would promise them land, resources, and safety. And the king's name at the time was Don Quixote, which was over 900 years ago, and it's the darkest period of Tontata history. It's because we were all slaves. All of them toiled underground, unseen, as the big people up above lived in the life of luxury with all their fortunes and all that. And, they don't know what happened during the Void Century, but 800 years ago, a new king came to rule in Dressrosa, Riku. And when the King Riku heard of the centuries of inhumane enslavement of Tontatas, he shed tears, knelt down before them, apologized, removed his crown, like a major show of regret. And he decided to enact reparations. So because of that, that's why they could take anything they ever wanted from the country. And, there's no need for them to work. And if anything was taken, it's because of fairies. And he convinced people it's because of the fairies. And that's why everybody's like, it's the fairies. Don't worry about it if something goes missing.
I love this. Obviously, well, I love the part where it has sort of a happy ending, at least for 800 years. But kind of the idea that, sort of the story of the fairies is kind of woven into apologizing for systematic slavery. It kind of makes me wonder too, since I feel like broadly we can kind of assume, right, that maybe it wasn't necessarily this way for all of the other countries where their kings left to marry Joa and they all had new kings, but it probably sounds a bit like the old kings were probably terrible.
Yeah.
And the new kings were probably not that bad. The new bloodlines maybe not that bad.
And I'm curious, because essentially it felt like the old kings decided the new kings. So I wonder how it ended up being that sense of kindness there.
Yeah, maybe they just didn't care.
or that.
Yeah, I don't know. They're just kind of like, all right, I got mine. See ya.
very much so. So, I don't know. It's just a small question there about who knows if it'll get explained or not. If it doesn't, it's not a huge deal. but it does make you wonder, like, how were these new kings chosen?
Yeah,
because ostensibly a lot of them seem to be pretty on the up and up. Although look at Alabasta, no king was replaced there, and they're still in the up and up. So maybe just becoming a celestial dragon makes you an asshole.
Yeah, I was going to say I think they the way Doflamingo worded it was that they turned him down.
Yeah.
So that might be maybe they were already good.
Yeah, very much so.
I do kind of like that they just kind of outright just kind of like, yeah, we don't know anything about the Void Century, by the way. Like that whole thing happened. That's a part of our history. Like we're over here doing our own thing. We don't know what happened.
But we got nothing. It also explains some things where we saw examples of with the King of Prudence, where, under the rule of the kind-hearted Riku dynasty, aid was always extended to the country's neighbors. It was never a prosperous land, but it was always happy and full of smiles. So their ancestors praised the gentle heart of the kings and worked hard to enrich the land and fill it with beautiful flowers of every color. So this is the 800-year bond that connects the Tontatas with the Riku family. And right there it is. That's one of the constant things that was always talked about, is like, you're always poor. This is a poor country. The people struggle type, that's the idea behind it. But no, it's we're working off of Dolly Parton rules, where Dolly Parton she's rich, but she could be so much richer because she donates so much of her money to help people. And that's what Dressrosa did in the past with the Riku family.
This could be my own personal cultural lens coming through here. So, but I feel like is also very much like kind of what I can't read this, but anything other than like Oda's intention is that it does kind of feel like it's a little bit of capitalism at work. It's a little bit of because that's what like Doflamingo rolled up and was basically like, we need to have like a lower class that's like constantly under the boot, right? Like, and we're gonna turn this country that's like this poor little, like, you're poor but happy, but this is a poor little dirt ball, and he sees an opportunity to make a buck. And so he's going to abuse it of its resources, let the weapons flow, let the all what I'm getting at.
Yeah
Basically.
It's just like let's Doflamingo's ready for late stage capitalism.
Exactly. Yeah. Like Doflamingo feels like he's putting the pedal to the metal on that, right? Like he's I've found a way to exploit this land for its resources.
So let's do it. And but the Tontatas are not having that because Doflamingo is basically trying to recreate the awful cycle of suffering. He's already seized the chief's daughter Manchuri and now holds 500 of their people hostage. So they cannot let the past be repeated. So that's why to Dressrosa and the Tontatas both, the Don Quixote's return means nothing but suffering. So we gotta get them back, or get it back. We gotta stop this before it goes any further. And It of course gets Frankie crying. Usopp does his little lie. It's like, I knew it all along. It's like, all right, we got to do this.
I love that they're cheering him on in the background too.
And of course, Robin's like, well, why is the granddaughter of King Riku being booed and jeered? It seems like people hate the Rikus. And that's when the toy soldier explains, like, that's because one day 10 years ago, there was an incident that caused the people to lose all faith in King Riku overnight. But the people do not know the truth of what happened. The king was trying to protect the country to the very end, and Doflamingo attempted to wipe out the Riku bloodline entirely. But I took Rebecca away from his grasp. And he finally caught her after a long period of flight, and now he puts her in the Colosseum to make a mockery. I've always been willing to give my life at any moment to protect the reputation of Riku and Rebecca's life. So everything is riding upon the coming battle. They're like, okay, who are you? What are you all about? And it's like, the truth is, I'm Rebecca's father. And it's like, yeah, we know.
Of course. I do feel like I feel like I try my best to kind of. I feel like with this particular one, we kind of clocked it like 10 chapters ago.
Oh yeah, we clocked it really far ago. Just the way he acted, it's like, okay, it's either actual father or bodyguard or that acts like a father type thing.
Yeah, there was some kind of paternal relationship going on here. I feel like I try my best to present the information that we have been given and to extrapolate based off of that. Maybe things could be one way or another, but yeah, there was, I feel like, kind of no avoiding it.
Yeah, but yeah, and I mean, it's an interesting chapter. There's a lot of like, it's getting bits and pieces here. We're getting motivations, and we're getting it's the slow reveal of the Riku family.
We spent almost a half hour on that chapter.
Oh, good God.
Yep.
Oh, God. But yeah, we do have an SBS, and there's not too much to say. I don't appreciate the first one, especially knowing her age. But again, the person who wrote into it is also her age, but also get real, man.
Still weird. I hope you weren't lying.
Yeah.
That's the best I could say to that.
Yeah. The other one is the fact of, it's like, hey, in all the fight scenes, why doesn't anybody go for the men's groins? Doesn't that seem like the quickest path to victory? Is like, do you notice it's like, do you really want to have a manga where it's nothing but like crotch shots in order to win a fight?
Maybe somebody should make that. Not us, but
that feels like a Bobo.
It does.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and waste no time and get to the next chapter, 727, The Hero's Ambush. And more from Caribou, and yes, that T-Rex was indeed Drake. And somehow
dragging him off.
Yeah, Drake has become leader of this island somehow because their resistance, and he just can't he decides to arrest Caribou. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, me neither.
There's Grandma in the background though. It's everything's destroyed, but. Okay, sure. Why not?
Cool to see Drake, though. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's a fun updated design. I don't remember exactly how he looked before, but it's similar enough.
Yeah. I would definitely have to look back and forth to see.
I don't remember I think he definitely had a hat before, and I don't remember if he had the piece of cloth over his eye, but
yeah, a little eye patch thing. Yeah, I don't remember.
He looks pretty boss though.
Yeah.
We get into the chapter itself, and the crowd is jeering at Rebecca because they're saying, stop running away and all that, because she's just doing her tactic of being up against the edge. They come before, she redirects them, and into the drink they go.
I mean, it is kind of a smart tactic.
Yeah, very much so. It's show us some blood. But that's not what she's going to give. And she's definitely huffing and puffing. She's being pushed to the limit. It's hard to tell how strong she is because of that tactic. She's fast, but is that enough?
That might just be it. Yeah, is sort of the agility. I do like that while all this is going on, I kind of like that Usopp's kind of trying to put the family tree together, where it's just you're saying you're her father, but if that's true, then she's the granddaughter of King Riku. So when you were still human, you must have been. He just completely, it all began on that fateful night. He's got to tell his story.
Were you King Riku's son? I mean, it might not have been. It could have been. It probably is not the direct son, if I had to guess. I'm guessing her mother was more the direct line, but maybe not. We'll have to see. But here's an interesting thing, is I was a little sad that because Monet was such an interesting character, but Monet still has a piece to play, at least in the past, because it all began when a woman named Monet began working at the palace, and they're like, wait, we know that name.
Yep. I like that. We'll see her later in the flashback, but I like that she still has those swirly glasses that she had in Pug Hazard.
Yeah, it's fun. She was such a great design.
Yeah,
but we basically get another flashback. We're just right into it with learning more about all of this. Apparently, the sun blazes down, but the flowers never wilt, and it's all thanks to the fairies, which we've got that explanation for. Kid's hungry. He was like, hey, if you're spunky enough to shout, you're fine. No matter how poor we might feel at times, there's no war here, and that's best of all. Because somehow, and this is amazing, 800 years under the Riku dynasty, the country never once at war. That's impossible. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's virtually a miracle. But I feel like it was all, that to establish that, Dressrosa was a humble, poor, but, again, poor but peaceful is sort of the vibe, until we basically get the scene here where Doflamingo kind of sitting in the windowsill is just kind of hey, what's up?
I'm here to take over your kingdom.
Yeah, basically.
Well, my kingdom, because it's mine. He's like, oh, I was worried about the reports about a pirate named Don Quixote. And they say you attacked the heavenly offering ships ferrying tributes paid to the celestial dragons and threatened the world government into giving you a position among the 7 warlords. It's like, oh, they just don't know what to do with me. After all, how does one handle a man who doesn't fear the celestial dragons? Which, boy, I feel like that's going to be important whenever Luffy gets to that point, because he doesn't.
I feel like this is really interesting because Doflamingo said, like, he was a celestial dragon, but isn't anymore. I think by that probably means that, well, obviously, he doesn't live in Mary Joa anymore. Mm-hmm. But he probably is by blood, which is why they don't know what to do with him.
Yeah. So, like, do we attack him? What's that?
Right. Like, especially now, God, I feel like we know how much the world government and the celestial dragons and the Navy, how much they care about bloodlines. So here we have a pirate who is like a pirate who is a celestial dragon who's like, and
how much does the Doflamingo family care about protecting him? That's the other question.
That's the other thing too. There's still a lot of questions about kind of how he got to where he got. But I mean, just sort of straight up where he's like, hey, I'll sell you this kingdom for 10 billion berries. And he's just kind of like, I would normally just take it, but like, I'm going to give you this chance.
And the king's like, we don't have that money. We're not that wealthy. And Doflamingo's like, don't care. You have until sunrise. No help from outside the country. So this is just a test of your ability as king. And don't tell the people about me. So, So King calls the soldiers and it's like, why don't we just fight them? It's like, no, we can't. To call it a fight sounds courageous, but to kill one another is not the act of civilized men. So again, we cannot bring war to this place. Nothing.
Hey, we just have met this King Riku fellow in proper, like we've basically had 2 scenes with him. Seems like a great guy.
Yeah, seems like a really nice guy.
We must not kill. Yeah.
I get that sentiment, and I don't think they'd be strong enough to beat him anyway, let's be honest. But it's also one of those things like, man, what's to stop him from asking for more money?
Yeah, here's kind of
That's why the whole having peace for this long is so miraculous. But it's also the idea of like, apparently they're strong enough to protect the country from any to ward off that, but they're also friendly enough that nobody really wants to, and there's not really enough natural resources for them to want to. It's like this perfect mix of helpful but not helpful.
Right? Really yeah. I guess it's kind of the perfect ally. Yeah. And that raises like a really interesting question, right? Of like, kind of what do you do with a land that has known peace for so long? Like the way that he's basically like, we're gonna have to get the people to give us money, basically. Like the people are gonna lose faith in me for a time, but like it will only last for a matter of hours. We will show good faith and make reparations. That is our only option. So it seems like even now it's like they've kind of built up this trust, and they're in a position where they want to do the right thing.
And they're just like, it's our only, we just got to collect as much as we can within the time limit. The country's life hangs in the balance. It's the only way for Dressrosa to survive. So the soldiers head out and are just like, okay, bring all the town's money here. It's like, wait, what are you guys doing? The Magi's going to be furious. The king's going to be furious if he knows what you're doing. It's like, no, these are his orders. We don't have time to explain, but you must have faith in King Riku. Bring all of your wealth and place it here in the center of town. And this could very easily have fallen into a Robin Hood situation where, the kingdom taxes the people and, it's too much. It's like, how could he, it's all of our money. How could we do this happen? But then, of course, Riku goes on the transponder snail screen and just is like, hey, I know it's so sudden and I know it's unfair that you have to doubt all this, but I can only beg and for you to lend me your aid because it's the only way for the country to survive right now.
Again, prostrates himself right in front of his people.
Yeah. And they're just like trying to stop him and like, you're stopping a nation. It's just like, you're disgracing the entire line of Dressrosa kings. It's like, no. I don't care how I look to other people. I beg of you, this is not a joke or a game. I will cut off my arms and legs if it will convince you of that. And
I love this man.
This man is so ready to go, and Tank is
he's
like
so
really
honorable.
Tank is so moved by this. Is like, because he talks to Tank personally. He's like, if worse comes to worse, I will handle Doflamingo herself, and he has dynamite with him.
He's ready. He's strapped.
He's ready to blow himself up right there. Enlist the help of our neighbors. I leave the country in your hands. And Tank's just like, we have to raise the money. We have to. And all the people were sort of wondering and like not sure. And then one guy comes out and is like, hurry, we got to do as Magic said. Let's give up our money. Kind-hearted Riku would never commit such evil against us, so there has to be a good reason. Pile up the money. And again, what an amazing country for them, the people to, like, I'm sorry, if somebody comes out and says, hey, we need all your life savings right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd be giving that up, I'll be honest.
Hey, look, I can't say that I've ever lived under a government that I would do that for, but, 800 years of peace will change a man.
The very good point. Very good point. They get all this money, trying to get the money back to the palace, and all of a sudden they find out that the king is in Sevio, and they see the king riding around, and the people are like, yes, King Riku, we believe in you. We don't know what's going on, but we believe in you. And he's crying and screaming out, run away. It's like, what are you doing? And he starts just slashing and firing explosive arrows into buildings and like just wreaking havoc on people as we can see him crying about it. It's like, stop this madness.
He's crying.
Yeah.
And I feel like, the answer is on the next page, but I feel like we've seen Doflamingo in action enough to kind of know.
Oh, we know exactly
what's going on here.
And what a ploy. Didn't even matter. Did not matter what Riku did one way or the other. It was just enough that, we just got to make you look bad. So Doflamingo's controlling him with his parasite string. We got an official name for it. And controls all the soldiers as well.
I think the crazy thing is we've only seen him do it to like one or two people at a time. He's got the whole army under control.
Yeah. And we already know he has Supreme King Haki, which has to have an even greater effect for all of this. So, like, what is going on here, basically, for all the people? What did we do wrong? And Riku's like, this country is finished. And it was all Doflamingo's trap.
Yeah. I kind of like how this whole arc, learning about it seems the people like Doflamingo here, kind of learning that there was kind of this other dynasty, and kind of like you're kind of getting a view of both sides kind of at the same time. I feel like the way that Oda really, really balanced how people like how everybody felt differently. Basically, you sort of you got the idea that maybe it was kind of a complicated situation. But no, Doflamingo's just evil. That's it. That's I think what this flashback is.
All it comes down to, and
he's establishing that. Yeah. If you had any doubt, no, he is just an evil man. The idea that also Doflamingo understands that people care about optics, and that has been such an important through line throughout this whole arc. Where one of his crewmates is like, is it time yet, Dofi? Like, settle down. You have to wait for the entire kingdom to quake in fear and hate King Riku with all their hearts before the hero can make his grand entrance. That's kind of how Doflamingo gets his power, right? Is that he's patient and he kind of understands how to manipulate people, which I feel like, and the fact that he is actually just like legitimately freakishly strong, but also understands kind of propaganda, basically, like, I feel like that makes for such an interesting villain compared to just being like, oh, this guy's super strong. Like you have to fight through somebody who also like understands how to get to the heart of people.
Yeah, and it definitely gets to that idea of Crocodile as well, because Crocodile knew how to play that game.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like there's something there about Oda's best villains.
That's for sure. Well, let's continue on and see how this all wraps up for this whole flashback, I believe, with chapter 728, The Number of Tragedies. And as Caribou's getting carted away, his men and his brother are giving him a tearful salute, and the grandma gives him a meat pie and says, this is the last meat pie for my grandson who sacrificed himself to the unstoppable warrior. It's like,
well, all right then.
It's so sweet. It's a nice old grandma. But yeah, we get into the chapter itself, and people are still screaming. It's like, why are you doing this? What has happened to the king? What's going on here? He looked strange when he was called out of the palace, but who could have seen this coming? We can't handle this on our own anymore. And thankfully we have Captain Virgo, which, boy, does that explain some things.
Yeah, we called the Navy. Here comes Captain Virgo. Yeah, I feel like that's also the crazy thing about Doflamingo's planet. I mean, this was 10 years ago, right? We know that.
Yeah,
now.
10 years.
Yeah. And so, like, that even at this point in time, he had this much power, right? Like that he had Virgo, he had the Navy under his command. He sent in Monet to prep things up.
Yeah,
It seems like this plan to take over Dressrosa, to kind of reclaim his birthright, has like been a long-standing goal of his.
And it's just a complete takeover. Completely knew how to play people down to just everyone. There was just like nobody that would not be affected by this.
Yeah.
And some understood the truth, but those could easily be quelled later.
Also, I completely forgot. There's this confirmation here. We have this. We see this mysterious Viola character.
Yes.
She rolls up to Monet. It's like, Monet, what are you doing there? It's just kind of like, with your all-seeing eye, you ought to have a much clearer picture of what's happening here. It's like, oh, okay, got it. She's Violet.
Yeah, boy. I mean, as soon as you see Viola, it's like, oh yeah, it's Violet.
Yeah.
So, okay, it turns out Violet's part of the royal family.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Who would have thought?
Seems to be either aunt or... No, it has to be... Yeah, aunt, because she's saying father, so... Weird to think that Violet is the aunt of Rebecca.
Yeah.
They don't see that far in distance in ages.
In age. Yeah. I think you're right about that. I kind of don't know how else that would shake out, but yeah, I think she is her aunt.
Crazy. But Monet lets in Doflamingo's crew, and there are pirates inside the pirates' grounds. Viola's gotten kidnapped. And we get to see, oh boy, this whole crew of Doflamingos, and we got I'm gonna forget a lot of their names, but we got the guy with that had the spin fruit. We see a much younger Baby 5. It's funny to see her so young. Very interestingly, the two, like the little girl from before, same age.
Yes.
So that's.
There's actually an explanation for that.
We get to see the art woman who is rocking a interesting top and whatnot.
She kind of looks like the mermaid lady from Water 7.
Oh yeah, she definitely does. I always got that sense of her. But like the old man is like dressed in some sort of superhero outfit. It's weird. We got the guy dressed up as a baby. This is a weird ass crew.
It really, really is. when you look at it, when you look at them all lined up, you're just like, yeah, Jesus, this is really bizarre. But yeah, they do just kind of, they kind of roll in, and like the royal guard kind of, they're like, hey, what are you doing here? And they're just kind of like, oh, we're gonna be very busy. First clean the palace grounds, and meanwhile, King Riku, under the just that shot of just Doflamingo just doing his hand, just puppet master thing in the background is so intimidating. But the way King Riku is
he's screaming I'd rather be dead than do this to my people. Somebody kill me, please.
That's such a dark panel, man.
Really is. Just see all that money piled up, all the slaughter happens around it, the soldiers crying, kids crying, the people are just distraught from it all.
That they were the pride and joy of the people.
Yeah,
they're all just crying out like, you've heard us.
Yeah,
and
those cries of "you're nothing more than human scum," that's the signal for Doflamingo to step in. And with his three big soldiers, we got our goopy guy Diamante and the spade dude. We have a name for it, but I forget it offhand. I think we get it here soon.
So I think we learned their names.
In the next page, Treble, Pika, and Diamante.
Okay, yep, there we go. Yeah, cool, easy. Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, and I love that they're just kind of like, the people are like, they're pirates, but like they're beating their, the Riku army, and it's just like, the people are, this is kind of a complicated situation for them. It was initially, at least.
And the other key thing is he's breaking their spirit for peace. He's like, yes, praise my violence.
And that's Doflamingo, man. He is a manipulator through and through.
That's all it took, that single night, for the entire country to fall into his clutches. And everybody's like affected, like Usopp's like, oh my gosh, and Frankie's full on crying.
Yeah, of course, he cried anything, to be fair, though.
And the reason that the Tontatas got captured is because they believed and they thought Riku went mad as well, so they reached out to Doflamingo, and he started capturing them, putting back to being slaves,
taking advantage of their gullibleness.
Yeah. And that's when Usopp says, like, man, he was framed and died a hated man. He's like, oh, no, he's still alive.
Oh, right.
Doflamingo is quite drawn to the powers of Princess Viola, so she gave him a condition. If you promise not to murder my father, I'll follow your orders, which explains Violet that we have now, and was one of the officers.
As a fun fact, I almost ruined this.
Oh, really?
Because I forgot that she was working under a pseudonym. So when she was first introduced as a Violet, I was like, I thought her name was Viola. I did not say that. I almost did while we were recording that episode. I caught myself. I was like, wait a minute.
It's tricky.
Yeah. God, these people need better aliases. I feel like that's also a running theme of this arc. We got Ricky and Riku, Violet and Viola, Lucy and Luffy. Yeah.
By the way, I didn't say it before, but I do love the designs of Treble, Pika, and Diamante. They look powerful.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Like, they do feel like an actual threat. Especially, I think it's Treble, the spade.
Yeah. Treble's the one with the freaky arms. Diamante, we've met before, who's running the tournament, and then Treble's the one with the snot.
Yep, with the weird toy power.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Riku's still out there alive somewhere in the country, but, nobody can imagine his pain. And we go to Violet as she's riding on this toy horse. Like, what's going on here? The soldiers also have a lasting pain as well, of course. They weren't wiped out. Some were slain in chaos. Others swore fealty to Doflamingo. And then Riku, of course, was the one who ordered his soldiers to do that.
Right, they were just doing their jobs.
Yeah, and Frankie's going back and forth. It's like, oh, those traitorous rats. Oh, no, Riku asked him to do that. Oh, I'm crying all over again. That was the humanity.
Yeah, he just doesn't know how to feel.
Those numbers are too low to be the full army of the country because I have lost memories of my own. Do you recall what I showed you in town, Frankie? When we were turned into toys, we retain all memories of when we were human. But those around us, even our families, lose all memory of our existence. To not even realize you've forgotten someone precious to you, that is the greatest tragedy of Dressrosa, and it even applies to toys. Meaning that even some of the toys walking around town have forgotten about him, the toy soldier. So the memory loss is just a cycle where it's so hard to keep track of everything because nobody remembers much of anything.
Yeah. So, but that's also the kind of the key, right? Is like Doflamingo, that he's kind of the toy soldier's gambling that everybody turned into a toy has a burning hatred of Doflamingo. Basically, the Doflamingo is trying to bury that rebellious will in the shadows, but that simply means that there is a rage and rebellion brewing within the darkness of this land, and that is the key to the operation.
Mm-hmm. And Frankie gets the pictures if we get the Tontatas might not be enough, but with all the toys in the kingdom, we might be able to stand a chance. And Usopp's immediately like, what are you doing? Are you getting pumped up to take down Doflamingo? Our goal here is only to destroy the factory. We're ditching this place as soon as that's finished. Right, Robin? I cannot forgive Doflamingo. Oh, no.
Yes, I love that serious face. Well, and then I love this bit, too, where they're just best. This is a day of reckoning, This morning's incident was a challenge from the enemy. It's no coincidence that Uzoland came to us this day. Heaven is commanding us to fight. And then, the toy soldier explains, when Doflamingo momentarily left his throne, can you imagine our joy when we heard the news? We thought a miracle had occurred. We learned it was a mistake. We were plunged from the bliss of heaven to the depths of hell. And thus, trapped in our despair, we chose to make our final stand on this day. And they're all just like, we're so sorry.
The shocked face, even from Robin, is so good.
The rare shocked Robin face is so good.
And the best part is, it is so easy to criticize Oda for a lot of his stories, where the Straw Hats arrive on an island, and it just so happens to be at the time when a big thing is going down. The timing of a villain is or something is happening. Why is that always the case? Or it's like you kind of have to just go with it. But here,
it's part of the adventure.
Yeah, but here they push up the date because they thought Doflamingo was stepping down. So now it's like all or nothing.
Well, I feel like they say they're sorry. This is Law's fault.
Yeah.
Precisely. This is not the Straw Hats' fault as much as it's Law's fault.
Oh, gosh. And then we get just another example of how awful it is for these men to be made into toys. Where Riku and Danchan-Jian are just having a solo conversation amongst all the toys. And it's like, despite being retired, you sailed out here anyway? Indeed I did. I have no successor to the Hapasui army. If only I had a grandson to take over. Life is hard even for the wicked.
He forgot him.
He forgot him. He forgot them. And here's the crazy thing, is that we see Boo, like, as a toy going in. It's like, where am I going? Help me, Grandpa. But we can assume he doesn't remember Sai anymore, because we have the brothers, Abdullah and Jeet, and it's like, what do they do to Lone Wolf Abdullah? What do they do to Solitary Warrior Jeet? They forgot each other, and that's the deviousness of this whole toy thing.
Yeah, that it's like a compounding effect, and that is how Doflamingo's been able to maintain this hegemony for like 10 years. Mm-hmm. That like you really just have a wider and wider net of just people forgetting other people.
And I have a feeling, I don't know if they'll turn Riku and Danchan-Jian to toys or not, because Danchan-Jian's pretty contained, but do you make him a toy? Potentially have his abilities there. I don't know how it works with toys.
Yeah, I guess it raises an interesting question. Like, do you retain your fighting ability?
I don't know.
But I guess like you have to obey orders, and you can't rebel. You can't fight back like against Doflamingo or his orders. Like you're just being forced into servitude. I guess it doesn't really matter. So I feel like that is kind of the tricky part, right? That like the toy soldiers plan, it all hinges on like kind of that growing hatred, but like how can you use it, I guess, is the next question.
Yeah, that is the big question. So, but we don't end with that. We end with Luffy seeing outside the Coliseum in order to talk to Zoro and Kinemon, because some rooster-headed guy showed him where to go. I was like, what happened to him? I don't know. He started frothing at the mouth. And we end with our little cliffhanger of, here comes Bellamy ready for his assassination attempt.
All right.
We'll see how that goes.
We'll see how that goes. Yep.
Another great chapter, seeing just all this come together. Like, it really, the odds just keep being stacked more and more against him, and it's fascinating to see how that all goes.
When you're understanding the scale of things, I feel like is kind of the big theme of this set, is like we're kind of putting out all the cards, pun not intended, with Doflamingo's army, but just like here's how big these things actually are. We've been introduced to the Tontatas and the Toy Soldier and their big plan to kind of overthrow Doflamingo, but like here's actually what it's going to take, and it is not going to be easy. And also that we kind of had to get this the Straw Hats emotionally invested, as you knew they would, right? Like Usopp tried to play the pragmatic one, be like, we're just here to destroy the factory and leave, and it's like, no, we like we're in it now.
Yeah, very much so. We do have an SBS. Somebody asking about everybody's least favorite foods. And I did get a laugh out of Luffy's. A certain establishment's cherry pie. No reason.
That's a good callback.
Yeah.
That is a crazy callback, actually.
All the way back to freaking Blackbeard. It's the only time we saw him not like something, to the point that I called it. I was like, it's weird that Luffy doesn't like this.
That's true. Yeah.
So that's funny. But I love how Zoro doesn't like chocolate because it's too sweet, and Chopper doesn't like anything spicy because it's not sweet enough. It's also interesting that Nami does not like chocolate-covered orange slices, because if she wants fruit, she'll eat regular fruit.
Hey, that makes sense.
Yeah, very much so. The other question is more of a question of puns with names, particularly Fujitora and Kugyu. It's like,
that's a hard one.
Yeah. Why did you go with Fuji for like light, which means light purple or lilac, instead of the regular purple? It's like, well, that's a good question. So it seemed natural. Like, I had red, blue, yellow, and green, and it seemed natural to go with purple next. But when I started trying to turn that into a Japanese name, I had Murasaki Tora and Shitora, and they don't really roll the tongue, and they're not catchy enough. But Fujitora, now that's cool.
Yeah,
that's all there is to it.
Yeah. I feel like this could just be me. I feel like Fuji has a certain like refined or kind of, I don't know. I don't know if I'd say royal necessarily, but I don't know. It sounds more higher class to me as a intermediate Japanese speaker than Murasaki or she. So yeah. I kind of get it. Although it's funny, Oda says like, what is wrong with Ryokugyu? As it happens, I've already designed his character and he's super duper cool. I can't wait to draw him.
Oh boy.
As somebody who does know when his first on-screen appearances, it is not for a very, very long time.
He can't wait, all right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get to chapter 729, Warlord Doflamingo versus Warlord Law. And
that's a little cheeky.
There goes Caribou being taken away on this black-sailed ship, saying, "Live long, old hag." Gaburu, the revolutionary, leaves to start another legend. As he waves with tears in his eyes and holding a meat pie. What the hell is happening with him being taken away like this?
This is such a weird cover story, man.
The men are crying about all this. Like, what is
it?
I like it, but I don't know what's happening, and I think that's the issue at this point.
I think the through line is just like, what on earth? Oh, boy.
Into the chapter itself, and Bellamy is just, he sees Straw Hat, and he's just like, okay, if I kill him, I'll be an officer in the family. So sorry about this. And that's when he gets spotted by a member of the Diamante army, somebody we did see in that flashback, Dellinger, which we didn't see from hips down, but...
Oh, yeah, he's rocking them short shorts.
Yeah, rocking short shorts and heels. So,
hey, free country, man.
Yeah, I didn't know whether to go he or she. I was going to go generic they.
I think he is he.
Okay.
I should double check that before I say that definitively, but I think he is him. But you never know,
It's hard to determine age because he looks quite young, but he still looks the same age as when that 10-year flashback. So
yeah, that's the weird thing because like I feel like he looked around the same age as like the little girl he was next to, who we have seen before, the one like eating the grapes. But like he looks older now.
And maybe taller, but his face is sort of the same.
Yeah, his face is the same, but taller. I think that's a better way to put it. But
yeah.
But more interestingly, he's here because he's just like, hey, did you kill Luffy yet? Like, or like, I got sent here because they figured that you'd screw up, so I'm supposed to kill you on the assumption that you would screw up. Which it's just like, this is like one little page, but I feel like, did you think that we would feel this bad for Bellamy going into this arc?
No, not at all. The fact that, like, okay, here's his chance. He's going to fail. We know he's going to fail. They know he's going to fail.
Yep.
And so they've already sent an assassin to just finish it off.
Man, what?
Ooh.
And that's... You want to root for him, right? And it's just like, of course, joining Doflamingo's pirate crew is a bad thing, like, just fundamentally. But, like, this is the thing that he's always wanted. This is what he's wanted since Jaya. And now we're seeing, like, he's trying to get his chance, and he's just... They don't want him.
Nope.
They're going to kill him.
Nothing for it. They want nothing with him. Feel bad for him, but more interesting than that, we got the fight between Doflamingo and Law, and...
Yeah. Calling this a fight is a little bit charitable.
Yeah. Law's doing his best. He drew blood. Blood, but he is getting manhandled by
definitely
by Doflamingo.
And you kind of thought that, like, okay, the first time he was dealing with Fujitora, and I feel like he kind of lost on purpose to kind of make his escape, right? This time, it really just feels like he's just getting completely creamed, and even Doflamingo. Yeah, again, just, blood dripping from the cheek. He's just like, what's the plan now? Dressrosa's just right ahead of you.
And then he gets a call. It's like, sorry, we forgot we were in the middle of a chat. That's the thing. He's not even taking it seriously.
He doesn't care, yeah.
He's on the phone.
Yeah, with Diamante, for one.
And he's just like, oh, yeah, sorry about that. I figured something was up when Blackleg showed up over here. But thanks to that, we're not sure what the Straw Hats' plan is. So don't worry. Put Lauji's group on the Smile Factory entrance, and it's like, are you kidding me? They're supposed to be in the final. The whole crowd's pumped up for him. Your presence enough. He's like,
we get that gag again.
Yeah. So all the men that were supposed to be in the Coliseum fights leading up to it in this weird setup that we have are going to be called away in order to be guards for the Smile Factory.
I think Dellinger was part of that group too.
He might have been. I can't remember. It's been a while.
Actually, no, I do remember because it was. I think we got their names back then too.
Oh, okay.
It was like right when the tournament started. Because it was all of the folks from Diamante's army. So it was Dellinger. It was the baby guy, Senor Pink is his name. That's it. the guy in the diaper, and then Laoji is the old man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I hope I'm not jumping ahead. I do think
I think you're right. I remember
their names and faces.
We saw them, and that does make sense. That does click. So I think you're correct. But yeah, it makes me wonder what's going to happen with the tournament when we get to that point, because I was already confused about how it was going to be set up, and now it's changed, so it's doesn't matter anymore. Where now it's going to be between the four remaining, the four winners, and then they fight Diamante.
Yeah. God, that I don't remember exactly how it rolls out either. So I'm kind of just as curious as you are. But I do kind of like how, again, Doflamingo, just as perceptive as ever, he kind of understands Law's plan immediately, where he's like, you were a decoy meant to distract me while the Straw Hats destroyed the factory. And even if you died, Kaida would put the screws on me over the whole mess. Do I have that scenario right? But you didn't buy as much time as you envisioned, and they're still struggling. And while you boast that you're only using them, your plan requires absolute trust in their ability. So why do you put so much trust in Straw Hat?
The D will always cause another storm. And that's like... He believes in the will of D, and we got some other aspect of the will of D was apparently causing a storm. What the hell is the will of D? We don't know. You don't know.
Not only that is actually a callback. It is. Law said this exact same line. I'm blanking on the chapter, but it was right after Luffy's flashback ended after Marineford, where he was kind of hanging out at Amazon Lily. And he was just kind of, again, just commenting on, like, hey, why are you here? You know, why are you following Luffy? He's like, the D will cause another storm. So this seems to be something that he, like, believes in, like, for real.
Yeah. It explains why, ever since he's met Luffy, he's sort of helped Luffy. We've seen it time and time again.
Yeah. And I feel like that answers so much, right? That feels like, I feel like that's kind of, at least in part, like, the missing key of, like, why he chose Luffy as the one to team up with.
It's a less fanboyish version of Bartolomeo.
Definitely, yeah. And that's also the funny thing, too, that Law seems to know something about the D.
Yeah. I glad somebody does, because we certainly don't.
we really don't.
But we go to Luffy and Zoro talking, and Luffy's like, hey, what do you want? It's like, first, why didn't you invite me to the tournament?
I love that he's still pissed about that.
It's like, we're running all over town and you're having fun. It's like, no, that's not the message we must deliver. And that's when the Marines are like, oh, there's Zoro. So Vice Admiral Bastille, it's Pirate Hunter, just as you thought. So the man inside must be Straw Hat. So, that explains why Lucy was so strong. So we got all that taken care of. But let him go for now. If we start a scene trying to arrest him, it'll only end up tipping off the assortment of villains and knaves in the Coliseum. And here's the interesting thing about how this all gets affected, where it's like, the combatants who've already fallen are Donjon Jal and Block C, and I don't recognize any of these names, I think. It's like, wait, who were we trying to arrest? Like, even they've forgotten. Even if you're not connected to, like, how far is the range of knowing these people?
This devil fruit seems like actually horrifying. Like, actually ridiculous. Like
it erases your existence.
Yeah, it reminds me of I guess it would have been around the same time period, maybe a little bit later. It reminds me of, oh god, did you ever get far enough in Bleach to read the Fullbring arc?
No, I think this is around the same time though, because I think the Fullbring arc is the Fullbring arc the last arc, or
it's one before the last, right before the last. It's right after Aizen. But the villain,
I stopped there because I was like, I can't read this chapter
it's kind of a bad arc. Yeah, it's kind of a bad arc. But the villain in that has a very similar kind of ability that just kind of unlocked a memory of, like, actually, superpowers that, like, affect your memory of something are just, like, like inherently really scary.
Yeah, they are. Jeez. It's funny happening such a similar time frame between One Piece and Bleach.
Yeah, definitely. I think I could be getting the timing wrong. We're in, like, 2014, I want to say. I think Bleach was already... I think Fullbring ended a couple years ago after this. So
okay.
Still relatively the same. I think that was, like, 2012 when the final arc started for Bleach. Mm-hmm. Oh, Jesus. We are still 11 years ago.
Right.
In One Piece terms.
That's crazy. But the Navy's forgetting about him. But Kinemon's like, okay, we were supposed to call up Sanji whenever we met you, so let's get him on the phone here. And we got the waters around Dressrosa, where everybody's talking to each other, and we've got a conference call. We've got Usopp on
everybody's
one
on the line.
Finally, everybody has a chance to catch up together.
Yep.
Except for Law. So everybody's there. So Usopp says, "This is a meeting of heroes. No eavesdropping." So it's just the three of them.
I love that they're on board with that. That the Tontatas are like, "Yes, sir." It's really cute.
I love this exchanging information. It's like, okay, remember the funky soldier outside the Coliseum? It turns out he was the captain of this army, and they want to take down Doflamingo today. It's like, oh, the toy soldier. That's the one Rebecca wants. He's the one Rebecca wants to stop. So, hi, Frankie. So, stop that army. Don't let it happen. It's like, are you crazy? I'm saying the opposite. Did you talk with Rebecca? Yeah, she's nice. She used all her money to buy me 3 lunches. But as soon as she fought in the arena, the crowd really started pissing me off. I agree with you there. So I think we understand Law's plan. We bust the factory, leave Doflamingo intact so we can use him. But what happens to the people who are trying to overthrow Doflamingo today? Does it really suit us better to let Doflamingo win? I don't care what you say, Luffy. I'm going to do this. There's a deep, deep darkness beneath this fun little country. This brave and tiny army stands bold and tall against a great and shadowy enemy. And I can't abandon him to defeat.
Frankie! That's my boy!
Yeah. We haven't had a good Frankie moment like this in such a long time. This is like Frankie fully involved. It's like, Luffy, I know you're captain, but I am invested in this. I need to help these people.
And that, like, he's been crying this whole time about the sad backstories, and it's like a fun, like, little gag, but like he truly, and like he cares, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about this, and that we do kind of have this shift where sort of like Law's version of events, as planned, is kind of this, I don't want to say like heartless necessarily, but it is sort of like, we are just going to use the situation to our advantage so that we can specifically take down Doflamingo later. Or it's like, yes, we're going to have Kaido take down Doflamingo.
Basically like Kaido take down Doflamingo. We're not going to do it. We're going to let Kaido do it.
But would that really leave this country in a better situation? So it is kind of, again, I feel like inadvertently we're kind of in another Alabasta, right? Where it's like we end up getting caught in another kingdom's politics to overthrow the government. And I mean, before Luffy even says anything, Sanji's already like, let's turn back then. I like how Sanji's immediately like, yeah, we're going to help. Yeah, we're in. Yeah, and of course, poor Chopper and Nami just like, no.
But I also love Caesar in the background going, yay! That's when when Luffy responds like, Frankie, give him your worst. We'll be right there.
I love just the belief, man, that Frankie was the one to convince him we should stay and do the right thing. And that Luffy's complete and utter confidence in him. Like, that's that Straw Hat Crew mentality that I just love.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, here comes Fujitora. Because there's a big battle in town. A big kaboom right near Zoro and Kinemon. And what do they see? Law passed out on the ground with Doflamingo standing above him.
Yeah, well, I guess that's what the L in Law was for, but
yeah,
even
that's
more
scary
than
that somebody with Law's abilities got beaten by Doflamingo.
Yeah, again, you can kind of argue the first one, but like, no, this is just like, yeah, no, he got cooked. This is another one because again, we're kind of getting into that era where like Oda is specifically off-screening certain fights to keep the story moving. So I do kind of wonder, like, what the anime's version of events here is. Like, I'm sure it's like padded to all get out, but
oh yeah,
I do kind of wonder what sort of a dragged out fight between the two looks like. But more interesting, like, Law is already beat, and here we have like, it's personal because Doflamingo brings out the Glock.
Yeah, and then he just starts shooting him, which is enough to piss Luffy off.
Yep,
and everybody's sort of shocked and looking at all this. Fujitora is sort of motionless. And we get an interesting word from Law. Korra.
Yes.
That's a backstory-worthy name.
If I may be so bold, and it's on the back of his jacket in this very chapter. It says Corazon.
Oh.
Which I believe is the Spanish word for heart.
Oh. Very interesting. Man, I can't wait to learn more about Law.
Yeah, there's definitely
Because
something
I don't
going
buy
on
for a second he's dead. He's not
Oh,
dead.
of course not.
No way.
Yeah.
But
but I feel like I have to appreciate that, like, the battle's over. Doflamingo has devil fruit powers, and he says, gun.
It's more satisfying, apparently.
He did lick the blood.
Yeah, he did. Hell of a chapter.
Woo, yeah.
I love how the Straw Hats went from this is an operation to we're going to try to save this country. We care too much about the people we've found.
Yeah, and the man who made the plan just fell.
Yeah,
so I feel like he can no longer object
much anymore.
Yeah, rip. And also now saving Law is probably going to be at least a part of the plan too.
Yeah. We do have an SBS where somebody actually counted up how Zoro and Sanji refer to each other.
That is an incredible amount of dedication.
It really is. Like, it's like, oh, you count them all. That was fun to read. But some of those times made me wonder when they said these things. But I do have trouble imagining Zoro calling him Sanji by name. But yeah, they might not have gone along well, but they're both valuable, trustworthy men who have Luffy's back. So, again, just the insanity of fans. All right, we've reached it. The final chapter of this set. 733 cards. And I love this. Is so stupid, but I kind of love it. Before Caribou left, he cried, "Treasure the grandmas." So I guess what we can assume is that Caribou offered himself up in order to protect the rest of the people.
I believe so.
So yes, he did sort of sacrifice himself.
Yeah, I guess this ended up in a really weird roundabout way. Like, is character growth? You know, that like Caribou learned to treasure something and to put himself on the line for once instead of, like, you know, sacrificing other people and putting them under his boot. So yeah, good for him.
Okay, that's shocking, but it's all thanks to Grandma.
Yeah.
We get back into the chapter itself, and all the others on the phone are just like, "What's with the explosion and gunshots? What's going on over there?" And Doflamingo just refers to the crowd as like, "Oh, sorry for all the commotion. This is the Law, Warlord of the Sea. He was the one behind this morning's mistaken report of my abdication. He was trying to pull me off the throne, but have no fear. He's been vanquished." It's like, oh, again, I see. Good job.
Talking about propaganda, that's why he used a gun.
Yep.
Was just to show to the people, like, I'm the good guy. I just shot the bad guy.
Yep.
Again, it's just all about, you know, propaganda. I love that, you know, the Luffy's just like, "Hey, Mingo." I love that's his nickname now. But, you know, "How dare you shoot Chaffee?" And I love that Doflamingo's like, "I don't need your scolding. Law was my subordinate. I clean up my own messes."
And immediately Zoro and Kinemon go into action where it's like, okay, Kinemon, get Law out of here. I'm going to take him on. And, you know, they're just like, "Should we do anything, you know, Vice Admiral, for the, you know, our masked Navy man?" And it's like, "No, hold on." And it's like, "What's going on?" And Kinemon's trying to explain it, and Zoro's getting in there. It's like, okay, basically, Doflamingo's like, "Oh yeah, I thought I saw a boy that looked like Momonosuke back on the ship." And it's like, no, we're not going to hand over the boy. And like, no, of course not. And as soon as Zoro's about to strike Doflamingo, here comes friggin' Fujitora blocking him.
Yep. And then it's just kind of like, oh, wait, you know. And there we go, that flashback, you know, where Fujitora's like, "I have a feeling not seeing that would be better off for the both of us." And then Zoro just gets gravitied, I don't know, 50 feet underground.
It's pretty big hit, too, because even it's a strong enough cut that it breaks his glasses.
Yeah.
His sunglasses. And yeah, down goes Zoro. Kinemon's left alone. And then Kinemon gets a boot strike against him that knocks him down. And Luffy's like ready to get out there and throw down. But the bars are made of sea prism stone.
Naturally.
Of course.
And I love this bit too, where like Zoro took a hit against Fujitora, but like before Zoro gets before he climbs out, like he sends like a sword blast or something basically to try and counterattack, and he's just like, "Oh, we're gonna actually get like a Fujitora versus Zoro," which, I mean, for like a swordsman versus swordsman, like that feels about right.
Yeah, that feels appropriate. It's like, oh, okay, I want to see this fight.
Right.
And that Zoro realizes, like, the blind old gambler is actually a naval admiral. And Fujitora just tells him, it's like, well, after the powerful kindness you folks did for me, it pains me to repay you back with the back of my hand. But it seems fate works in mysterious ways. And it's like, wait, there's a naval admiral here in Dressrosa? What is... Did the Doflamingo have the Navy on his side? How big is his forces? Like, what are we up against here?
Which I guess, well, for one, I guess because Doflamingo's still a warlord, so like he would have, well, maybe not the Navy would even if he were not a celestial dragon, I feel like the Navy would side, with him versus pirates. So that makes sense to me. But doubly so that he's a celestial dragon.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Fujitora lifts himself up with his gravity powers. Doflamingo's flying, takes away Law. It's like, hey, we're going to talk to the palace, Fujitora. Work with me and you'll have all their heads. It's like, well, I'll hear you out, but it's after that I'll make my decision.
Which is also interesting because it feels like Fujitora it seems like he's kind of on neutral ground here.
Very much so. You can tell that he doesn't fully trust Doflamingo, but he's very much by the letter of the law. Doflamingo is a warlord. I follow him. That's the way the law works.
We gotta talk about what's going on here.
Yeah. But this, of course, leads to another issue where, hey, here's the rest of the Navy trying to capture Zoro. So we got to go. So Luffy, look for an exit. We'll stay on the move and wait for you. And Luffy knows, like, hey, Law's not dead yet. So hurry.
Man, putting that observation hockey to work. His voice hasn't vanished yet.
Very much so. Here's the other crazy thing that I flipped the page and I couldn't believe my freaking eyes. I'm like lost.
Because you hear Brook on the phone like screaming out and you're like, wait, what's going on the Sunny's end?
Yeah. We just had we're dealing with Doflamingo. We're dealing with Fujitora. We just lost Law. We have a revolution mounting. And the others are, we're going to head back to Zoa, I believe.
Zol.
Z-O-U.
Zo.
Yes. They were going to turn back. So I'm like, I knew they weren't out of the story. And then all of a sudden, here's Big Mom's ship bearing right down on him with all the candy and stuff. It's like, what the...
Also, it seems like the mast is talking. It's shippy.
Yeah. It's like, are you sure that's Big Mom's ship? Oh, yeah. Is Big Mom on it? I don't know, but we definitely see the two guys we met at Fishman Island. So, and they see Caesar. They're even talking to Mama. So, like, they want Caesar.
Yeah, we have to sink the ship. Of course, I love Baron Tamago. We must sink the ship and pull Cesar from the wreckage. So French. And
immediately Usopp is like, I told you this would happen if you picked a fight with her. And so now everybody's after Caesar.
Yeah. I love Sanji smacks him like, it seems like everybody wants a piece of you.
You evil scientist. It's like, and immediately Caesar's like, save me. What? You can't let Big Mom get her hands on me. Listen, between you and me, I built her out of some research funds. What? The details aren't important. The point is that they find me and I was lying, they're going to kill me. I don't care what they're going to do to you, but we're not handing you over either. So sit down, shut up, and now they're getting chased by Big Mom. What the?
This is insane. And that they're also, like we can't let an emperor into the country, right? Like, we gotta keep him away.
Yeah, the whole place will panic. The army army's plan will go haywire. You guys got to keep Big Mom away from the island. Which, again, the way Oda has found to separate this group from the events of Dressrosa is insane to me.
Because
look, I know Whole Cake is the Big Mom arc from just osmosis. I didn't think she'd show up until then. Mm-hmm. I thought it was just going to be nice and separated, but no, everything's bleeding into each other and I'm losing my mind.
Yeah. Again, I was giggling at your prediction, right? That like, oh, there's no way that, like, of course the Sunny Crew's going to come back. I could be wrong. I do not think we see the Sunny side for the rest of the arc. I think they're out.
Oh my God.
I think it is literally just Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, Robin, Frankie. I could be wrong.
Interesting way of breaking it all up, but my God.
I think we're not going to see the Sunny part of the crew again for the next little while.
Oh my gosh. But Yeah,
And the fact
I
that it
mean,
is Big
we get
Mom
the explanation
that-
for that because it is Nami saying, Sanji, we can't turn back. And I'm not saying that because I'm afraid, so listen up. There are 3 cards we're fighting over with Doflamingo. Caesar, the Smile Factory, and, for some reason, Momonosuke. We haven't destroyed the Smile Factory yet, so they've got that one. But we hold the other 2 cards right here. And I love how she yanks on Caesar and pushes Momonosuke to her chest, which just has him
Of course.
So, Law was fighting Doflamingo as a decoy to move these cards away from the enemy. It might have also been a ploy to buy some time for our factory plan. So he went through all that to protect our cards. If we go right ahead and hand them back over, his sacrifice means nothing. So it's up to you guys to get Law back and take care of the Smile Factory. We'll keep the other 2 cards away from Doflamingo and head to Zoe.
God, again, we were talking about Frankie last chapter, and here we have like Nami again, just like making her case to the captain, and just it's like that this entire situation has gotten completely chaotic, and the chips are down, and I this is that moment where we're kind of at like the low point, and so here we have the crew kind of like having to trust and believe in each other, and. For Law, who they realistically just met, to believe in them, and for them to believe in Law, like all of this kind of I love this stuff.
Oh, it's so good. And we get one last request for permission from Sanji to strike back at Big Mom's ship, and Luffy's just like, yeah, sure thing, I already started that fight anyway. Good point. All right, let's do it. We'll see you in Zoe.
See you in Zoe.
So stay safe. We're heading to the palace to take down Doflamingo. So that's why it feels like the end of Act 1, because everybody has firmly their goals in place, and let's go.
Yeah.
Like the table is set.
Yeah.
How will it go wrong in Act 2?
Now we have we do have an interesting problem though, because now Luffy's still in the tournament. And he needs to get out to save Law, and he says that we're gonna break out and take down Doflamingo. So how does that work? And of course the Navy's here, the bars are made out of sea prism stone, so that seems to be kind of our problem for.
It seemed like everything was filtering towards the Colosseum because the Smile Factory is underneath it, but we got to get now to the palace because of that. So. If to put out a prediction there, I think Act 2 is going to be focused on the Colosseum. Act 3 is getting Law back.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
That's my best guess.
Definitely. Oh, man. Could you see why this whole time I've just been like, I can't wait for next week.
I can't wait for next week.
Like, holy crap. This was, like, this feels so climactic. It feels... We are 30 chapters deep into this arc, and like, I don't know, man. The way all of these elements have been moving, the pacing, the speed, the twist, like this is just kind of everything I wanted.
I'm in heaven.
We are not even close to done.
Nope, not even close.
This is just good old fashioned One Piece, man.
I couldn't tell you what's gonna happen next, but God, I can't wait to see.
I said it. I think I said it before recording, but like literally, chapter 731. I think you're gonna like it. I know exactly what happens next chapter, and
oh my God,
next week is going to be a really, really good set.
I'm excited. I can't wait. I'm just full of joy. I have the joy of reading the chapters and talking about it with you, but then it's like, oh God, these episodes are so long.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm kind of shocked this episode wasn't longer.
Yeah, I think after there were so many disparate elements to talk about with that first chapter, that needed going over, that I was able to much more easily dissipate from that point. Yeah, and like, okay, here's the basic idea and all that. Good God,
this arc is so good, man.
Yeah,
this arc is so good.
This might be a new favorite. If it continues at this pace, it might be my new favorite.
I could 100% see that
take over as that.
And I guess that's the crazy thing. I would be really interested to see, because I've always I like this arc, but I like Whole Cake more. and I like Wano more.
My God.
Which is like, and now I'm like, but this is incredible. So I'm kind of wondering if I'm going to feel as strongly once we get to those, and let alone Zoe, which we will go to at some point, and some of the other stuff, let alone the other arcs that I have not mentioned.
Yeah,
there's a lot of really good stuff. Like Dressrosa's always been that thing for me where I've always liked it more than certainly Fishman and Punk Hazard, but not as much as the stuff after it. But now that I'm like reading it at this pace, is like, this is incredible.
It really is
so good.
But with that, I believe we've said all we've wanted to say about chapters 726 to 730 of One Piece. Thank you so much for listening, and you can find more of my ramblings and stream VODs over at BitNerd Games on YouTube, or simply BitNerd on BlueSky. And Brandon, where can everyone find you at?
I am Brandon Bovia on Twitter and BlueSky, talking about anime, manga, games, and my job, and just follow me for more insights on that. I've talking a lot about Beyblade lately, and other various work projects I've got going. I had to trim the fat a little bit. No offense to Dragon Ball, no offense to Kaiju, but I'm still working.
That's the important part. So yeah. And if you'd like to help us out more, you can support the podcast over at patreon.com/Derrick Bittner. That's DerrickBitner, to listen to the next episode ad-free 3 days early, as well as patron-exclusive bonus episodes, where we just recently talked about the 4 shorts that happened before One Piece premiered as part of the Wanted collection. So you can give those a listen. And make sure to return next time as we discuss chapters 731 to 735 of One Piece. So until then, my friends, bye.
Remember to take life one piece at a time. And I think next week's going to be really special.
This little army is brave as hell, staring down an enemy that's pure evil. I can't just leave him to die.